Business Centre in a few moments, but first of all I would just like to introduce you to my guest today. It's Andrej Majenik. Hello Andrej, welcome.
Hello. Hello.
So Andrej is from Majenik and Mihalikova, which is a local law firm here in Bratislava. So we're going to talk a little about a few things today. So without further ado, we're going to carry on with our presentation now and get started. So thank you for joining us. Very good. So first slide then. Right. I want to introduce you first of all to our local network here, obviously the CE region. You can see the cutaway map of Europe here. On the left there is Germany, just underneath in dark blue is Austria. And then if you move onto the right, you can see the lighter coloured blue. At the top there is Poland, underneath Czech Republic, and just underneath there's Slovakia, so obviously the old Czechoslovakia, so Czech Republic, Slovakia, that's where we are, right there in Slovakia. Underneath you have Hungary, and to the left obviously Slovenia, and to the right is Romania. So that just gives you the strategic view. We have an office in each one of those countries serving British businesses and helping British business from the UK. So moving on again, so you want to know what actually a British Business Centre is and what a Chamber of Commerce is. Well, it's right here. There's a few nice pictures here as well, so you can see that it's a dynamic business-friendly space. We've got a great opportunity here. So when you get off a plane here, for instance, in Slovakia or any of our CE regional offices, you can go straight into one of our business centres. You can plug into the physical space. You can plug in and go. You can work from here. Obviously, we have the peer networking. We have the opportunity to meet local businesses and our contacts. And of course, because we're a Chamber of Commerce, we have lots of members, such as Andrej and his company here as well today. Practical business-to-business advice. We've got temporary office solution for you here, and obviously then you can showcase your British business. So you can show off the whole British band and see where we are. So getting up to speed with what's happening in the market, breakfast seminars, targeted networking events, business briefing, business support and advice, it's all here for you in our business centre. Right, why choose Central and Eastern Europe? Well, as you know, it's obviously uniquely positioned. We mentioned it before where we're situated. The region's combined GDP is £1 trillion. We have 110 million people in the region, which, as you know, is almost twice as many people that are in the UK. Locality perspective, the CE is only 2 to 3 hours away from the UK, so very logistically close, and we're serviced by a large number of budget airlines, which makes it really ideal for medium-sized and small businesses on tight budgets. The annual growth across the CE over the last 4 or 5 years has been 2.6%. 2014 will see it rise to 3%. And if you compare that to the Eurozone, which is only 0.5% growth, and 0.2% in the UK, it's very favourable. Between 2014 and 2020, the region will benefit from around 125 billion in EU funding, so that's a massive amount of money. We have a very highly educated workforce here in Slovakia and across the CE, very flexible, very ambitious. And of course the strong English language competency across the region, which makes it a great add-on for British businesses, and of course the brand is very well liked indeed. So here we go, Slovakia, the heart of Central Europe. We believe that's exactly where we're positioned. You look on the map and you'll see exactly where we are. So here we are on the right hand side there, you can see Slovakia just underneath Poland. If you look at the red dots, that will explain the capital cities in the nearby vicinity. And you can see that Vienna is really very, very close to Bratislava. So you can fly into Bratislava, you can fly into Vienna. It's only 45 minutes to Vienna International Airport. Of course, Bratislava has its own airport too, with great flights from Birmingham, London, Stansted, etc. And then if you look up to the top there in Czech Republic, you can see Prague. That's 3.5 hours only to get to Prague from here, unless you take the train, which will take you 4 hours. And you can get to Budapest in Hungary in less than 2.5 hours as well. And you can see also Slovenia, Croatia, all the capital cities are in the local area, so it's very logistically suited. So let's have a look a little bit more about Slovakia and what exactly and where we are with our export growth potential. Of course, Slovakia joined the EU membership in 2004. The Schengen Agreement began in 2007. And the Eurozone in 2009, so we converted from the Slovak crown to the Euro in 2009. Population is over 5.2 million, and around 550,000 of those live in the capital city, Bratislava. One of our key logistical hubs, we really are the key logistical hub in one of them in the European trade area, of course. Centrally located, as I mentioned before, with very good access to neighbouring countries, and the key business sectors in Slovakia I would say automotive, engineering, energy, transport infrastructure, information communication technology, research and development. And I think with research and development, we can safely say that with the low labour costs and high levels of education and the multilinguality, we have really great opportunities for the Slovak technical market here as well. And of course, there is a real strong added value for British innovation and value products from the UK. Right, and so that's kind of given us an introduction to the CE and into Slovakia now. So I think it's worth welcoming Andre again now. So thank you, Andre, for your patience with the build-up. Andre is from the law firm here. You can probably pronounce it a little bit better than me. So
yes, it's the law firm Majerník and Mihalikova.
Okay, super. Right. So Andre is going to give us a few sort of slides now into a little bit more detail. So we're going to cover a few topics today, which will be obviously Slovakia as a member of the EU, choosing the law, the right law to use, Slovak contractual law, securing your contract, and of course establishing a business in Slovakia. So Andre, if we go on to our first point here, can you explain to me a little bit about, as a member of the EU, what about the free movement of goods here in Slovakia?
Yes, of course, Chris, but before I can try to shed some light on the legal terrain in Slovakia, I would like to thank you for having me here, and I hope it won't be boring and it will be of some help to the audience. So as Chris, as you have already mentioned, Slovakia is a member of the European Union, therefore it's a part of EU internal market. So the British entrepreneurs, like other subjects of European law, can benefit from a free movement of goods. So essentially no customs duties on goods exported from Britain to Slovakia exist, and all quantitative restrictions such as quotas are in general prohibited. Secondly, if products come to Britain from a third country outside the EU and all import formalities are complied with and custom duties are paid, such products entered to the regime, the so-called regime of the free circulation, and can be therefore freely exported to Slovakia. Finally, Slovakia, like any other member state of EU, shall not, say for certain limited exemptions, take regulatory measures which may hinder intra-community trade. So it means that there is a solid assumption that once the goods are lawfully manufactured and marketed in Britain, the goods can be legally sold in Slovakia.
Okay, right. Well, that gives us a very good overview of the movement of goods, and I think it's important to know. But as when we were talking before, you did mention that there's this hidden charges sometimes, so we should look into that. So maybe you can enlighten us a little bit on that.
Oh, well, they're hidden, they are imposed by law, but yes, although there are no customs duties, there might exist charges levied on importers. I give you one example. The importers, as well as domestic producers here in Slovakia, importers of mineral oils, some lubricants, tires, cardboards, paper used for hygienic purposes, or motor vehicles, have to pay the contribution, a certain fee, to the recycling fund. So this is one example of this charge.
Okay, right, important to know, definitely. So you've mentioned here as well, you've got a little point, there's special requirements. Now, when I'm, for instance, having a shop in Marks and Spencer's here in Bratislava, I see the labels on the back. We've got a little white sticker on the back in Slovak to sort of say what the ingredients are over the top of the British products. So could you give us a little bit of an insight into what special requirements might be needed?
Yeah, you notice right. As I said, although measures restricting or hindering the import of goods are prohibited, obviously the goods imported and intended to be sold in Slovakia must meet certain requirements relating not only to labeling, packaging, but also to composition, presentation, etc. These requirements are put on chemicals, toys, foods, pharmaceuticals, and many other goods. The requirements are set in various laws and regulations and might be the same and similar to those applicable in the UK, since they are mostly coming just from EU law. Unfortunately, due to the variety of goods and such requirements in question, it's impossible for me to come up with a conclusive list naming all of them. Therefore, it's advisable to assess possible impact of such regulations on imported goods on a case-to-case basis.
Okay, thanks very much, Andrew. So let's move on to the next slide. So we've talked about goods. Now we're going to talk about free movement of services and licenses. So perhaps you can go into point one there straight away, Andrew. Thanks.
This is the impact of EU law. If the British entrepreneurs want to provide services in Slovakia, they may do that temporarily or on a permanent basis by establishing themselves in Slovakia. We will talk later about some ways how to establish a permanent business presence here. So since both Slovakia and Britain are in the EU, the British entrepreneurs may benefit from the principle of free movement of services. It means that in general, once someone is legally allowed to provide services in Britain and has fulfilled all conditions in order to do that, he may temporarily provide these services also in Slovakia without obtaining a license issued by a Slovak authority. All what is necessary is to notify this economic activity to the so-called points of single contact. But even in certain cases, that is not needed. This rule, however, does not apply to all services. There are exemptions such as transportation or postal services, services provided by professionals like me, lawyers, executors, auditors, services provided by banks, insurance companies. However, almost all services which are here regarded as trades are covered by this regime. So in case of the so-called free trades, such as brokerage activity, business, organizational and economic consultancy, marketing services, market research, one can provide them without any notification. In case of crafts, such as plumbing, heating, cosmetic services, and in case of regulated trades, such as teaching foreign languages, one has to notify his activity to the point of single contact, which is in Slovakia Trade Licensing Office, by filling in the form and submitting certain documents.
Mm-hmm. Okay, right. So that covers obviously the temporary cross-border as well. So you've got the website here on the right-hand side. So this is the Ministry of Interior. So I see that's in English as well. So how does that work? Is that going to help us?
I hope it may help someone from Britain to get more information. This is, as you mentioned, this is a website of the Ministry of Interior of the Slovak Republic, and one can find more information about the conditions of temporary cross-border provision of services.
Okay, right, that's very interesting. So let's move along now from the actual overview to sort of actual details. So choosing the law and choosing whether, if I'm a British company, I'm coming over to Slovakia, you know, how am I going to deal with the law? You know, obviously I don't speak Slovak, let's say, I'm not sure what's going on. Which law should I be using for my contracts? Do I have a choice? Perhaps just give me a few details on that, Andre.
Okay, so once you find your trading partner in Slovakia, you inevitably enter into some kind of contract, or you must enter into some kind of contract. And since it is a contract between British and Slovak, then the obvious question arises: which law governs this contract? You can let the law to determine the governing law. For example, in case of distribution contract, it will be the law of the state where the distributor is domiciled or has residence. However, it's good to know that you are in principle free to choose the law. You are free to choose basically any law, but it's advisable to choose the law which has some connection to the contract. So in this case, it's obviously naturally either the laws of England and Wales, or Scottish law, or Slovak law. So you can make, in principle, this choice of law, although it has some limits. For example, if you enter into the contract with a consumer, then there are limits, and also, although the contract is governed by English law, and this is a contract between British company and Slovak company, the so-called overriding mandatory provisions of Slovak law would apply. These provisions are mainly principles coming from public policy rules.
So it's pretty important to make sure that we look at the limitations of those contracts. So if we move on to the point 2 then, so obviously if we're going to use a British law or a Slovak law, we can have that, but you've also got these international standards as well. Do you want to just elaborate a little bit on that as well?
Just to mention that international standards such as the terms and conditions drafted by international organizations such as Incoterms or terms stipulated by the Vienna Convention on the contracts for international sale of goods can be used also, can be referred to, and they are actually widely used in Slovakia.
Okay, right. Okay, so let's move on. So we've chosen the law. We know what we're doing there. So now, what about the Slovak contract law? So the Slovak contract, for instance, you've got a bit of information here about the contractual freedom, how easy it is to do that, content informal, and the fact that we can use it. English is widely used in Slovakia. So please iteLaborate a little bit on that.
Okay. So if for whatever reason your contract is governed by Slovak law. Then I think it's worth knowing at least a little bit about some characteristics of Slovak contract law. The principle of contractual freedom governs the Slovak contract law. It means that first it relates to the content of the contract. The contractual parties are, save for some exemptions, I come to them, free to arrange their mutual rights and duties as they wish, provided the contract is sufficiently certain. Secondly, contract might be concluded even via exchange of emails or even orally by telephone, although some contracts must be in writing, otherwise they are null and void. For example, a contract with a commercial agent must be in writing. And of course it's advisable to have contract in writing for natural purposes. Finally, even the contracts are governed by Slovak law. They can be validly executed in a foreign language, and indeed many so-called international contracts are in English.
Okay, well that's interesting as well. I think for instance with the English, the fact that it's widely used obviously helps us British because we're not the best at languages, but it's great to know that there are lawyers here that can actually work with us. So, but there are some limitations then. So perhaps you can just give us.
I will just briefly touch this area because there are always to some rules some exemptions. So. Slovak law belongs to the so-called continental legal system with written law. So it recognizes certain types of contracts with very simply said predefined content that particular contracts should contain. Therefore, there are, in case of some types of contract, many terms relating to these contracts set by the commercial code. These terms then apply to the contract and becoming the implied terms of the contract. They are applying automatically unless their application is excluded by the parties. So it's good to know that except for contract, your contract might be regulated even by the terms and provisions of the commercial code. So this is just one example of the limitations.
No, that's great. So I think after we've got the law sorted out, now we want to secure our contract. Now in the UK we have lots of different types of securities, and it looks to me pretty similar as what you've written down here again. So perhaps you can give us the overview on the Slovak side.
It's a good question. I'm not the expert on English law or other law in the UK, but I guess these are pretty the same like in the United Kingdom. So the Slovak law allows for all standard forms of securities like personal guarantee, bank guarantee, pledges, charges, mortgages, contractual penalty. Obviously, the most popular among the creditors and also widely used in Slovakia is a bank guarantee. Although it's provided by a bank for a remuneration, which might be sometimes not very cheap, it secures the creditor in the best way. Mortgages are put on or imposed on real estate or charges imposed on chattels, we call here movable things, require registration in Slovakia. So they need some administration and they are not always available.
Okay, interesting. So I think now then we've covered quite a lot of topics here as well, but the do's and don'ts. So when we're beginning a contract, obviously this is extremely important. So You've listed a few here as well about choosing the right law, speaking with lawyers. So please go ahead on a couple of the points here, choosing the right law and language of your contract.
I think these are pieces of common sense advice that you will not choose the law you are not familiar with, and if it occurs that you are forced to enter into the contract governed by a foreign law, then you consult a lawyer and you let the lawyer review such contract. Okay. What I would maybe emphasize is that if you do not have any experience with and again, this is a common sense advice, if you do not have any experience with the other partner here in Slovakia, it's worth checking this partner, its identity, basic details which anyway would come into the contract, or even its creditworthiness. So it's up to circumstances how thorough such inspection should be. All companies and even some sole entrepreneurs in Slovakia are registered in the Slovak Commercial Register. It's
right,
business
so
register.
Yeah. So that website on the right there, yeah, I've actually had a look at that as well. It's pretty good, pretty informative to find out the business partners, etc. thing. So yeah, how does that work exactly then? What information does that help you with?
You can request for a certificate or extract from business register via the competent registration court, post office, or notary when you can get a certificate. But you can also look at the website where this information is available, and this is the website we are looking at right now. Although I have to warn you that the information there is only indicative. So if you want to be 100% sure, you have to obtain the certificate on paper.
Okay, perfect. So let's move on. So obviously with the do's, we've got the don'ts. So what shouldn't we do? You mentioned about legal templates, Slovak law. What shouldn't we be doing?
Again, just to briefly comment on this, these are again common sense advice. Certain words used by English law have their, I'm talking from my experience, certain words used by English law have their specific legal meaning, content and implications, for example, warranty, consideration, negligence, indemnification, and their use or translation of such words in a contract under Slovak law might cause considerable problems in their interpretation in Slovak legal system. So it might actually do more harm than good. Some concepts under English law are not recognized at all in Slovak law, for example, concept of liquidated damages. So I will stick to these advices.
Yeah, okay, well good. Let's move on then quickly because we've got a couple of questions that have come in. But let's just talk a little bit about the establishing a business in Slovakia. So you've listed here the names of or the types of companies that you can have here. So please just give me a brief overview of those companies, and we'll get on to some questions.
So should you decide to establish a permanent business presence in Slovakia, you can either establish the organization branch or organizational unit or a company partnership in Slovakia. All of them must be registered in the business register we talked about. However, our organizational branch does not have its own legal capacity, and it's just an integral part of a foreign legal entity, while companies and partnerships, they have their own legal capacity and their legal entities, which are different from their members or shareholders. Partnership and limited partnership need not have any minimum registered capital. However, in case of partnership, every partner's liability for partnerships debt is unlimited. In limited partnerships, there are partners whose liability is unlimited, and other partners' liability is and other partners are liable for partnerships debts up to the amount of unpaid contribution, which must be minimally 250 euros.
So, Honor, which one of these companies would you say would be the most interesting company to take up?
By far the most popular and widely used vehicle for doing business in Slovakia is the third one, so the limited liability company. Limited liability company can be established even by one person, either natural or legal person.
Okay, super. No, very good. Okay, so I think now we've got a few minutes left over for some questions and answers. We've got some questions here. So to do with setting up business as well, we've got a two-part question here, Andre. What are the costs of setting up a business in Slovakia?
Oh, you mean setting up the company, Chris?
Yeah,
you mean
setting up a company, exactly,
okay.
yeah.
So what the question is about. So it depends on, well, it's not easy to answer quickly. So it depends on several factors, mainly which company is to be set up, what business activities such company is going to perform, how complex the documents establishing the company are, how many members the company will have. So if I have to give an estimate relating to limited liability company incorporated by one shareholder with a simple business activities, the registration fee paid to business register and other fees need not be more than 200 euros. The fee paid to the registry court for registration of the company is roughly 313 euros. But if the application is made electronically, it's just 165 euros.
Okay. Well, the second part of that question is, I mean, obviously with the costing, it's clear. But I think, you know, it's like how much does it cost to set up, and then what about how long it takes? Can I do that quite quickly?
Again, it depends on various factors. I can
just briefly.
So in theory, the registry court must register the company into business register within 2 working days of receiving complete application. But in practice, this time limit is often prolonged from 5 to 10 working days. Before that, you have to arrange a few things like execute articles of association or memorandum of association, open a bank account, obtain trade license, or other license if necessary. So, but in a nutshell, maybe 1 week, 2 weeks.
Okay, well that's good enough for us to know. I've got a couple more here. Tom's asked, are we just dealing with Slovakia here or Poland too? Well, obviously this is, our office runs with Slovakia very much. You can get in contact with us and we can put you in touch with the network. So if you do decide you want to export to one of the other CE countries in the region, it's no problem for us to put you in touch with all the relevant parties. So get hold of us on bsbc.sk, or you can send us an email or whichever you like. We'll give you the responses later. There's another question. We're just running slowly down on time. Also about companies as well. Which type of company was best? I think we actually had that question before, which was quite
it's
quite well.
In my opinion, limited liability.
Yes, exactly. Company. And I've got one question here, which is a bit more to the business orientation, which means what services can you offer me for the products in Slovakia? Well, I've just got enough time to answer that. So obviously we've got breakfast seminars, targeted networking events. We can market your business here. We can find the right people to come to the business breakfast. We had a company out from the UK a little while ago to promote their brand, so we can actually showcase your products and find our right partners, because obviously we've got the Chamber of Commerce network, we've got our local network. There are many opportunities here as well, and obviously with my colleagues in the CE region it's good. So finishing up now, Andre, I'd just like to thank you very much for coming along today. It's been very enlightening, not boring at all. I think Lord's very interesting.
Thank you. It was a pleasure for me.
Absolutely, super, that's great. So everybody, thank you very much for joining us today. We will be doing some more webinars in the future on different aspects and business centres in Slovakia. You can get hold of us, as I said before, on bsbc.sk. Please send us an email, please have a look at the website, and anything you need to know, just get in touch with us. So thank you very much indeed, and have a nice day. Goodbye.
Bye.